Happy Friday, everybody. This is what barely keeping it together looks like for me. Oh my God, I didn't even change my name. I'm Ray at the moment. So really, Amanda's not dropping the ball. It's Ray.
Good morning, Ray. How'd you grow that hair so fast?
I've changed my look. Oh my God, no, but it is really good to connect with you, Jackie. I am so happy. I know we took a little bit of a break for the holidays, but it feels so good to hang out with you. And to how have you been? I am a hot mess over here. How are you doing on this wonderful Friday?
It's been an awesome morning so far. The last couple weeks have been busy, hectic, right? Like a lot of parties, a lot of social gatherings. My work has been crazy, and my mind has been everywhere. But I've just been trying to give these last few weeks to myself to just chill a little bit. Like, I think the last 3 months of the year, I was pushing, like working, doing my yoga training, like, and I felt like my body was in a state of constant fight or flight. I just, even when I had a moment to rest, I was like, I couldn't relax. So I feel a little bit better. I think taking the holidays to just give myself a little bit of a break was really, really nice. But I'm excited to be back. Yeah, the new year, I mean, it's always just another day, right? It's just another now. And we always have the chance to start again, but just I'm feeling that wave of energy and I'm excited to um start cranking shit out again. Like, I want to start making more videos. Like, I'm going to start with my yoga stuff, like getting that all situated. Shit. Why can't I speak? Situated. Um, Yes. So exciting stuff. This morning I went to a really hard yoga class and it was like exactly what I needed. Like, I needed to just sweat my life out and I feel great. Like, I feel like that's, I don't know, just sweating is something that I've not fully appreciated. Like, I don't know, I grew up playing sports all the time, so like I kind of took it for granted, like getting a really sweaty workout, but I don't know. I haven't been doing that much recently, but I think that's something I want to start incorporating more because I don't know. Like, as much as I've been chilling recently, I've had this like feeling of not existential dread, but like a little more weight, maybe. Like, I don't know. It just, as much as uncertainty and I don't know, limitless potential is freeing and amazing, it's also like, okay, well, what is even the point sometimes? And so I've been like having that weird feeling of like melancholy. And so like sweating that shit out, it's gone. Like, it drained out of my body. Um so I'm feeling better now. Anywho, how are you, Amanda? How was your holiday?
That's awesome. No, I like it, and I totally resonate with what you're saying about like it's not existential dread. It's like bite-sized dread. It's like smaller bits of it, and it usually just tied to like the perception that responsibility is a burden, or at least that's not the way that I take it. Is like, oh, I feel my dread a lot of times when I'm feeling like the perceived weight of responsibility because it's all on me, and I'm like, oh, it's all on me. 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 Like I feel all those things. I'm like excited. I'm motivated. I'm like, oh, again, So it feels like moderate dread, and but responsibility is not a burden. It's an opportunity, and it's in my experience, it's never as bad as I thought it would be, and all the things that I dreaded experiencing weren't really as terrible as I thought the experience would be, because usually, let's say for like a small example, like the holidays, I wasn't always looking forward to every holiday party. I kind of dreaded some of them because I was like, oh, here we go again, dealing with family politics, dealing with family dynamics, and like not really looking forward to that all the time. But when I would get there, it was a lot more fun than I expected. It wasn't as much. There wasn't as much politics as I thought there would be. But then I spent a good portion of my holidays this particular time by myself, and it felt not as bad as I thought. I didn't feel as lonely as I thought I would feel because, like, take for like my birthday is December, and I spent my birthday by myself. And I didn't spend it with any family. I didn't spend it with any friends. It's December 20th, so it's 5 days before Christmas. It is like prime time holiday season, and I spent it completely by myself. And it didn't feel as I didn't feel as alone as I thought I would. It felt really wonderful and delightful and special and very intimate because it was me spending some intentional time with myself, knowing that family is just a drive away, a friend's house is just a drive away, and I have a vehicle. I could have done that. And I still was like, yeah, all right. I mean, I did want this, and then I worried about wanting this, and then I got there, and I was like, in that moment, I was like, this is good. It was different, and it was really good. So I'm glad that I spent my holiday season and my birthday a little differently. And I do feel recharged, and so I am glad, and I'm ready to get back into it because, as many of you may know, and many of you may not know, Jackie and I are hosting our first workshop ever later this month, January 19th and January 20th. Is a Friday and a Saturday. And we're going to be doing a research and information literacy workshop because, in our humble opinion, they don't adequately uh, incorporate research skills and practicing research skills in school, which you would think in school you would learn about it. But I have met so many people that have went through the public education system, and they really don't feel confident. It's not that they don't know, and it's not that they couldn't learn. It's that usually when I talk to people, they're not confident in their own skills of researching and siphoning through tons and tons of information and citing your sources, and where do you go for reliable information, and then how do you double check that, and then once you've collected that information from reputable sources, how do you analyze it? How do you incorporate it when you're answering certain questions that you have when you're working on certain projects for both your personal and your professional life? And it's a lifelong skill. And I do think that this would be really worthwhile for people. And it's not something that gets talked about enough, in my opinion. But you also studied research, Jackie, so I think that you are an amazing resource, and I'm very excited to learn from you in this workshop. Like, I'm going to learn too, people, not just to share what I think I know.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. It's a cool way to incorporate my college education into my current life because I'm not really using my degree, but I guess I am because it contributed to the person I am, I guess, in the way that I think. But um, yeah, media literacy is such an important thing in today's age. We are just overwhelmed with so much information. And like, I have friends and shit who like will see a TikTok and like believe that it's true. Like, like we need to know what sort of voices, what sort of sources we can trust. And we need to know also, like, even if, a government organization or like a research organization is putting something out, we have to be able to look at the actual studies and not just the headline, because usually the title of the study or even the abstract is over not I'm not going to say exaggerating the result, but like they have to kind of form conclusions, and even if the statistics aren't super definitive, like they're going to spin it in whatever way. And that's the thing, is like you can spin data in so many different ways. um if you have an ulterior motive, like for example, certain businesses will sponsor research that backs up their business. And when you look at the actual studies, they're not conclusive. They're not using replicable methods. And yeah, they just know that the headline or like, just having a study, a lot of people will just stop there, right? They're not going to question that further. They'll be like, oh, yeah, there's this article about it, so that must be true. And it's funny because people a lot of times today think that science has all the answers. And when you actually get into research and into studying something, you learn that like we absolutely do not know everything. Like the biggest parts of our experience are still mysterious. And I don't know, like I feel like there is a bit of a blind faith in just any scientist when that really isn't in the spirit of science at all. Like the spirit of science is skepticism, like as much skepticism as possible. You have to be able to do good science, you have to be trying to prove yourself wrong, right? Like you have to be looking at every little aspect of it that could be contradicting what you think is going to happen. So I think it's important, and we'll get into this more in the workshop, of course, like we can't give it all away right now, but I think that is something that I really want to emphasize is just like we need to maintain that healthy bit of skepticism just in general. Like when we're interacting with information, when we're experiencing thoughts or emotions or perceptions within ourselves, we have to be able to look at that and be like, but where's the evidence? Right. And so, yeah, I'm really excited for that workshop. And, it's going to be, I think, really informative. And I'm excited to do it. I mean, I'm nervous because even though I did do research in school, it's like, I don't know. I just never feel like I'm an authority to speak on anything, but I think that's a good thing that I'm not being like, oh yeah, this is exactly how you should do it, because I don't want you to trust me. I want you to look into it yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah. That'll be what, January 19th, 20th?
Yeah. Yep. January 19th and the 20th. The details are going to be posted by the end of the day today at the dualisticunity.com website. So you can find all of the information there. And then, of course, we'll share more information on Discord and on other platforms. So it will be available for purchase by the end of the day today. So I'm really excited to inquire and to share and to learn together, because I do agree with you, Jackie. It's the nature of science is inquiry, it's questioning, it's skepticism, it's curiosity at its core. Like we are curious and we want to explore because we can, not to prove ourselves right, not to prove someone wrong, but we can explore for the sake of exploration. And so I love that. And lately, over the last year, I've been saying, like, we're doing something in the name of science, in the name of exploration, and I've just that's been my saying for like the last year, because I want to encourage other people as well as myself to stay curious for the sake of just being, inquisitive and the skepticism is healthy to keep in mind, because we're not trying to be an expert. We're curious about what's going on around us, what's going on within us, what's going on between us, what's going on, at the other end of the world, what's going on in space, what's going on in the ocean. Like, why not find out and just explore just for the sake of that, And so I like that we're not coming at it like I'm a certified researcher, and nothing against that. If you did that, that's great. If you have a career in that, that's amazing. But we are just two people who love learning and we love exploring, and we've gotten good at it using tried and tested methods, which I also love too, that as I was researching for our workshop, I learned about different resources I had no idea about, like specific databases that are for like a specific genre of information. So like you can use Google as like a general database, and you ask it a question and it brings up certain things. But there's a specific database that's like just for medical research. There's one that's just for a certain branch of scientific research. And I never knew that, but now when I found it, I was like, oh, that makes total sense. You'd want a database that's specified if you could, so that it only brings up and it only stores information relating to a certain topic. So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm learning as I'm getting ready to talk about learning. I was like, it was like layers of learning, and it was just fantastic. So I'm excited that we get to learn with everyone, and the workshop it's very inexpensive. It's going to be $40 because we're not trying to, profit from information sharing. Like, information sharing should be free, but since it's not, since it's so profitized, I think it's important to just keep it super affordable. So $40 is a 6-hour workshop with Jackie and myself over a 2-day period. Each day will be 3 hours, and it'll be an hour or so of us making a presentation, and then 2 hours of application, 2 hours of us answering your questions in real time and researching together and going through the entire research process as we know it and finding out something new, hopefully together. And then that workshop is going to be available for purchase afterwards. So that way you could just see all 6 hours as your schedule allows. But that's amazing. And then something else that's new is next week, the ChatGPT store is going live, and Ray has been working on the Dualistic Unity life troubleshooter. And so that's going to be available in the ChatGPT store next week. So like, there's so many new things, and we just got our first official college intern that's going to be working with Dualistic Unity to earn college credit for their degree, and so that is official as of last month. And we just added a new person to the sales team, and so like, there are so many new things happening, and we're going to be doing more workshops. We're going to do more live videos, more retreats. Like, the sky is the limit. And fuck that, the sky's not the limit, because you could keep going past the stratosphere. There is no limit unless you make it. And I say, fuck it. Fuck those limits. Up, up, and away. Beat me up, Scotty.
Yeah, the limit doesn't exist until you create it, but even then it doesn't exist. You're just not trying, right? Like we just draw these imaginary boundaries around ourselves, and like we won't leave, even though we totally can at any moment. And we're like, no, but I can't because I never have. Meanwhile, like there's wide open skies, blue skies, there's a nice cool breeze, and yet you're standing where you are. So yeah, lots of fun stuff to come. Also, I'm working on a lot of yoga things I'm going to be putting out for the community. Me and Andrew are going to be doing our series starting up again soon, right? So yeah, it's exciting. I actually didn't know we brought on a college intern. What are they doing? Like for the ChatGPT stuff, or like how are they earning credit?
So they have a certain minimum. So it's for certain college degrees. This one is, I believe, marketing and advertising, business management kind of degree. And for that degree, a portion of it is earned through a work site placement. And so you work with a real business and you help them, you build their marketing, and you learn on the job training. And once you've reached that minimum number of hours worked over one semester, so this is going to be over the spring semester, and then in May, I have to write up an employee evaluation report, like they're a legit employee, but they're getting it's unpaid. So what they're getting paid with is the college credit that they earn from doing this experience, and all the life experience that they get from that as well. That will serve them long term. But they have to meet a certain minimum number of hours. I have to write up a report at the end of this. And each week they're supposed to be getting a certain number of tasks from us. And that could be anything relating to marketing, advertising, sales, administrative stuff. And so we're going to be coming up with it as we go. But it officially, I filled out the paperwork in December. It starts this month, or it already started. And so they're going to be able to use the time working with DU as a way to, as the internship, and then that will get translated, or I guess converted into college credit once the college reviews my report and kind of just gives us the seal of approval, because they're not here watching us, but they're going to say, the student learned this applies towards their degree, so we approve it. And then they kind of just keep on going. And then they could still work with us after the internship, but if they didn't want to, then just working with us for a semester is enough to help them earn about a few of their college credits. So at least a semester's worth.
That's so sick. That's amazing. Um, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, well, I guess internships are,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
like, they're lucky. They're coming into like the coolest, most chill like work structure. I mean, we're still gonna have to make them do something, but
Yes.
that's great.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
The
Man,
sky's the limit.
that person, reached out, and I'm not going to say their name just in case they want to keep it private, but they reached out and was like, is this possible? I was like, I don't know. Send me the paperwork. I'll fill it out. I'll talk to the college and we'll see if it can work. And we meet all of their requirements as a business because Dualistic Unity is a registered LLC. And so, me being the director of sales, I was like, is this title enough for the college? And apparently it is. And there was a little bit of back and forth with the school, but I know how to work the system. I know how to talk to, corporations, and a college is just another corporation. So we were able to navigate the red tape, and it is official. So we have the first college intern of hopefully many. And I just love that we are creating opportunities in all ways. Fitness, you and Andrew, like you guys are going to be giving like amazing examples and videos, and he's learning. So you have somebody who is learning yoga for the first time, and that's going to be an amazing experience that people can relate to, resonate with, and also be doing at the same time virtually with you. So you're going to be sharing your skills and your relaxation, and that's going to be amazing. And then we have college credits that could be earned. You have sales if somebody wanted to work with us in our advertising sales, workshops available to share information and resources. I mean, I'm just I'm a little blown away just by how much has happened in such a little bit of time, because Dualistic Unity is such a baby. We're only, it's only 2, and in 2 years so much has happened, and I'm so glad that we're here for year number 3. Like, hooray.
Yeah, it's exciting, but it feels almost effortless, right? It's funny, like all of this stuff is happening and it kind of just feels like I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I always am, right? Just winging it. But it's exciting. It's crazy that 2 years ago I was just listening, or a year ago I was just listening. I hadn't even started coming to the groups, and now like I'm here. And it's, I don't know, just the way things continue to work out continues to baffle me, and just it inspires awe. It's just crazy. It's insane how all of this, like, I think my consciousness, my decisions, my actions are independent, right? Like we all have this illusion that we are like separate, self-responsible beings, and that, I don't know, we're isolated from everyone and everything else, and everything else is working independently. But the more I continue to move through my life, it becomes more and more obvious that that could not be the case. Like it's too perfect how everything unfolds, and like the seamlessness of other people, you know. And when you meet them, it's because your journeys are at like this similar, or not a similar point, but like it just makes sense for you to meet. And then all of these connections become made, and like the tapestry keeps being interwoven, and our will is inseparable from that. But at the same time, we feel like it's ours. And I don't know. I think that's kind of where my like feeling of dread in terms of continuing to exist comes from the feeling that I'm separate and I have control, or I could have control. Because it's like, okay, well, damn, I have to keep living my whole life and figuring it out. But like, I don't have to really figure it out. Like, it doesn't have to be so effortful. Like, life is just going to keep coming out of me, and I don't have a choice. And even though, like, I don't know, it's not that I want a choice necessarily. It's like I just keep making this unnecessary pressure for myself where it doesn't need to exist. Because there are so many moments where I realize, like, oh yeah, it's just I've been doing it this whole time and I'm going to continue to do it and I don't need to worry about how it's going to turn out. But I think it's like habitual to try and think about that. Like I mean, our whole life we're raised on end goals, like fixating on a destination, fixating on becoming something, arriving somewhere. And, when you realize that that's never going to be the case, it's always just going to be here. It can be like, well, damn. But at the same time, there's so much here. There's so much here. And yesterday I was kind of I was kind of feeling my feelings a little bit. And I wanted to read you this passage. I made a TikTok about it, but I was reading this book, Alan Watts, the book on the taboo against knowing who you are. And this passage, okay, so it says, how is it possible that a being with such sensitive jewels as the eyes, such enchanted musical instruments as the ears, and such a fabulous arabesque of nerves as the brain can experience itself as anything less than a god? And when you consider that this incalculably subtle organism is inseparable from the still more marvelous patterns of its environment, from the minutest electrical designs to the whole company of the galaxies, how is it conceivable that this incarnation of all eternity can be bored with being? And that hit me like a fucking train. I was like, you're damn right, Alan Watts. Like, I'm not looking at the little things. I'm not looking close enough. Because really just this moment is so full. Like, it's as full as it could be. And I'm just so busy trying to get somewhere else that half the time I don't even recognize it. So that was just a good reminder for me, especially like feeling a little more emo recently. Like, I needed that reminder because it is so full. Like, there is so much here to appreciate. Even just having this conversation is like overwhelmingly beautiful and significant. And I don't know, man.
I I resonate. I definitely do. And as you were speaking, when you were like, this conversation is extremely, and I thought beautiful before you said it, because I am right there with you, Jackie. And since finding, I guess since zooming in more on the marvel of existence, of everything being here, I've certainly felt like an exposed nerve. And then I was thinking about that the other day, where it was like, am I all of a sudden an exposed nerve, or am I finally just not covering up? Am I finally just not building walls between my perceived self and everything else around me? Is it that I'm exposed, or that I'm not hiding, or that I'm not covering with my identity, covering with my personality? Like, oh, that can't be me. Amanda is this. The identity is this, and everything else is that. And without doing that, it feels exposed, but I just don't think that it's actually exposed. I think it's just intentionally uncovered. Like, it's not like we're I don't know. It's weird to put it into words, because I don't think that it's all of a sudden exposure. I think it's more so less covering, less barriers, and because I agree with what Alan wants is saying. Like, how do you how do you not how are you not in awe of yourself? How are you not in awe of everything around you? This is magic, people. This wall is made of magic. How dare you not revel in its marvel and its beauty? And it's like, because I get caught up, Alan. What the fuck, man? Like, give me a break. Like, you're not helping. I put enough pressure on myself, and here you are like, well, why didn't you see the sparkle, Amanda? And I'm like, I don't know, Alan. I don't know. I go through moments like that all the time where I'm so ecstatically happy, and then I think of something and I'm like, oh, we were a real asshole and we did it because we were hurting. We didn't even notice they were hurting, and our hurt is their hurt, and I'm just crying. I go from like super happy and then I'm just crying all of a sudden, and I go through like huge fluctuations in my emotions. Sometimes it makes me feel like I'm schizophrenic, or it makes me feel like I am having a mental breakdown. And it's like, no, but but all feeling is intense. All feeling is full encompassing. And when I'm not holding on to one emotion or one experience, I flow from one intense, marvelous emotion to another. And I I don't feel as crazy as I watch myself swimming between the variations and swimming across the scale of emotions. I don't feel so crazy anymore because I'm letting go of the expectation that I'm supposed to be an adult. I'm supposed to be civilized. I'm supposed to be mild mannered, and I'm supposed to not feel things intensely, because that's what a lot of my messaging was as a young person, a young girl. It was like, be quiet, Amanda, don't be so loud, don't laugh so loud, don't cry so much, don't it was like everywhere I was going, it was like minimize, bring that back, cover that, don't do that. And it's like, why? Like, life is meant to be felt, and it feels fucking intense. And that is amazing because I can handle it. I am the space for all of that intensity. So what do I have to fear? What is there to minimize? What is there to shrink? But so many times you get a message that's like, be smaller, live smaller, think smaller. It's like, fuck that. I am all of reality. There's no way you can shrink that down. But so many times we get the message that you need to be smaller, you need to be quieter, you need to take up less space. Fuck that. Take up space unapologetically because you are that space. And I'd rather you go from feeling intensely happy to really feeling that sadness when it comes to visit, or when it's there, because it's better that you feel that intense sadness, anger, anxiety, happiness, curiosity, than repress it, bury it, and then unknowingly wait for that fucking emotional bomb to go off later. Feel it all, regardless if it has a negative or a positive connotation. Feel it all because you are it all.
That's a good reminder for me, because I think, I don't know, like even with the passage I just shared and like how I was saying that I've been feeling kind of down, like I think there is kind of still a resistance to that. Like for me, I almost feel guilty for feeling like bleh about life, because there's so much beauty and marvel all around, right? It's like I can't, but at the same time, that fluctuation in experience is perfectly fine as well and beautiful in its own way, right? And I couldn't feel ecstatic about life if I wasn't down in the dumps sometimes. So like that's a good reminder to just allow any of it to be as it is, and any sort of judgment about my emotions or any of that is me trying to cling on to this idea of Jackie that I built over time, right? Like I was, as a child, extremely sensitive, like very emotional. Like I would cry, like if my sister killed a bug, I would cry because I'd be like, what did it do to you? Like, like just so sensitive from a very young age, and outspoken as well, and like kind of sassy. And I, over the years, I've learned to just get smaller, cram myself in, shove those parts of me down. And so, I don't know, I still kind of struggle sometimes with allowing myself to be the full extent of what I am, and like allowing myself to really accept that about myself, because sometimes I surprise myself and I notice myself being uncomfortable. But I'm learning to like relax into that and being like, no, it's okay that you're something that you haven't been before, because you were never that thing. Like you've always been that and everything else, right? Like infinite possibilities. So I feel that expansion happening though. Like I feel like the layers are being peeled back, but then again, that rawness But that's always been the root of our experience, right? Of just being like, holy fuck, I'm alive. What the hell? Right? Like, and everything that entails, you know? So it's not that we're just now becoming this sensitive. Like, we just are because we're tapped into everything, right? Like, we aren't separate objects. And so what we're dealing with is the experience of the whole. Like, we're all processing our part of infinity. So it's like not something wrong with Jackie that sometimes she's sad. It's just one end informs the other. And that's another thing that Alan Watts talks a lot about in this book, of like the battle between good and evil, light and dark, you know, hatred and love. And he really makes the case of it being like, yeah, they're going to always be in constant flux. You know, good is not going to conquer evil forever. Evil is not going to win over good. And we're so like dead set on like specific ends of the spectrum of duality that we think are right. Like, we want to live only on the bright positive. Like, there's such an emphasis on like positivity and you know, mindfulness, and with that is a tone of positivity. Like, it's not as equally accepting of, and it doesn't really recognize the value in negativity, in pain, in that other end of the spectrum. But you need both. Like, you need your enemies, right? Being up requires being down. So that's just something that I'm just like, there's so much mystery and so much that is ineffable. Like, recently I'm like, I can't even express the things that I'm feeling or recognizing internally because they can't really be articulated. And I'm struggling to do that right now. Dualistic unity is fun because we're trying to talk about something that can't be talked about. It can only really be experienced in a moment where you just let go of your internal dialogue for a second and you can just feel your connection with everything. And that's incredibly profound and so mysterious. And we could talk about it forever and still not even get close to communicating the full extent of it. But we're hoping if we point enough times, maybe you'll look, maybe you'll see.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. I love you so much, Jackie. We all love you so much. I thank you for sharing this, because it feels like we're not allowed to have low days. Like, we're not allowed to have blah days. And that's so natural. It's a, you know, it's just a part of our experience. And it's so relative, right? Like, you may be in one hypothetical scenario, you may be stealing one apple from a fruit booth on a street because your parents may have abandoned you, and now you're on the streets and you're a little kid and you don't know any better and you're stealing. And so to someone that is good, that you're feeding yourself, and to the little booth owner, that's bad, you're stealing from them. And to the other kids, you know, you're bad because you're stealing, and you're just stealing out of survival. And so it's so relative. To be high or to be low is also relative. It's not so black and white. It feels like infinite shades of gray. And it's so easy to want things to be black or white, but like, the more I look at it from a different perspective, the same thing, it doesn't feel so black and white, because something that I do that feels like it makes sense for me as an individual may not make sense to someone else. I have certainly looked like a villain to some people and a hero to others. And a background character to someone else. Like it just feels like it's infinite shades of gray, but it's really wonderful to be able to share all this, all the things that we experience, all the things that confuse us, all the things that feel clear one day and foggy the next. It just it's just another part of our experience. And so I really appreciate how many opportunities I get to change, because I had a meeting this morning and I totally forgot about it. And then I had to go run an errand. I had to go run an errand that like could not wait and that I also forgot about. And so by the time I come back home and I'm setting up for my computer for the meeting, I drop the bottle. I drop a bottle of wine off of the counter. Thankfully, it doesn't shatter. I have to log back into my computer because it logged me out. Then, as I'm logging in, my computer dies. So then I have to go and run to grab the charger. Then I have to go, and then I'm just like, when the moment where you want nothing to go wrong and everything goes wrong, and I laugh because I'm like, like it just like. Regardless of my opinion, this moment is still here. Regardless of my opinion, I could either freak out and chuck the laptop across the room, or I could just laugh and just say, you know what? That's all right. Yeah. Eventually the plug will go into the outlet. Eventually we will log into the meeting. And once I got into the meeting, it was, they were already immersed in a conversation. And I was like, okay, I'm going to wait to say hi. And then I waited and I'm in there and I say hi and I contribute to the conversation and it goes great and it goes amazing. And the meeting will be was recorded so I can watch it again later. So anything I wasn't there for, I'll find out about. So it's like, it's all working out. It's all just unfolding is probably not the better way, but the way that I want to say it now. And so look at myself like just pivoting and changing right then and there. Like I could use the word better, but we're not going to judge that word. The word I'd like to use is just that things are just unfolding. Right? Because to say that something's working out in my mind is implying that things could not work out. And it's not that things are ever working or not working. Things are just unfolding. And I make an opinion about how it's unfolding. If it's unfolding at the right angle, is it unfolding at the right speed? Is it unfolding into the right shape? Is this unfolding in the right direction? And the moment just always seems to be expanding and unfolding as much as I can let go of what's happening. But if I have if I hold on to my opinion, I'm just going to get a lot of paper cuts. If I just and I don't have to. And it's okay when I get caught up. It's okay when I get frustrated. It's like, okay, that's happening. But I'm usually frustrated because an expectation that I created that I did not need to create is not meeting the reality of the moment that I'm in. And because reality is not matching the expectation that I did not need to create, I'm frustrated. So the frustration is self-created and I don't have to do it. And as I'm noticing myself do it, I'm like, okay, we're doing that. I mean, that's happening. So, I mean, we don't have to judge what's happening, but we can pivot, we can adjust, we can adapt, we can move in any direction. And I don't need to move in the direction of judgment. And when I do, that is still another opportunity to learn. Even as I judge myself, I can learn that why I'm judging myself in a particular way is based on how I perceive myself to be the best. And that is a culmination of all of my resources. That's a culmination of my culture, of my parents, of my school upbringing. Like the way that I judge myself is a culmination of all the bits and pieces that I took from other people's scales and other people's measurements. And I was like, okay, I don't want to judge myself like that, but I like how they judge that. So I'm going to take that. And so I've just been making a custom judgment scale, but it's all a culmination of all the ways I see everything else around me being judged. And that makes sense. Like it makes sense that I do that because I was raised to be a judgment machine. So why wouldn't I judge everything that I do? But the great thing about technology is that you can always take apart any machine, any configuration. You can always take it apart and make something new out of the pieces. So regardless to what machine you're looking at, it's not set in stone. You can always change it. You may not reuse every single piece in the new invention, but who the fuck needs to use every piece? That's another expectation. But what I can do is I can take what's available and I can make something, anything new at any given moment. So why don't I? Why not?
Exactly. Why not? When you stop creating answers for that question, there's not one. And yeah, like letting go of certainty and the idea of yourself is not about getting rid of the perception of yourself, right? It's not about becoming one with the whole and not having this inner experience, which is oftentimes at odds with what's actually happening, right? Like we feel things intensely, we can't help but make expectations. That's just our brain will naturally do that because it's trying to, survive. And the best way it knows how is its past experiences, creating expectations. But like you said, like those expectations only come from our past and all of the messaging we received growing up. And, in the US, that messaging is so incredibly contradictory and impossible to embody. Like there's on one hand this idealism of like Christianity and morality and all of this, and at the same time economically we're taught to be like we need to work for ourselves, like we need to gather as many resources as possible. Those two systems of thought are at odds with each other. And no wonder we're all so fucking confused and just so serious because we're always feel like we're doing something wrong. I definitely feel like I'm doing something wrong. Like there's just like a background feeling of just something's not right now because there are just so many contradictory expectations about what's happening. But like once you realize that, it's not about never experiencing those types of feelings again or, being always super empathetic and like, being always nice to people because you recognize that they're you. Like it's more like you recognize that they're all you. And then it's like, okay, well, let's play, right? It's like you're playing the part of my enemy and I'm playing the part of your enemy. And like, uh, we can still have underlying this like sense of recognition, right? And we can't go out there and probably will be less likely to go out there and fucking nuke each other or like have wars if we can recognize that even though we're playing this game of opposites just because that's what duality has manifested, right? It's not real. And so like it can be a little bit lighthearted. And that's where the humor comes in, right? The humor of like, oh yeah, I thought, that same old pattern, right? You can laugh at yourself. You're like, oh yeah, I was expecting something. How silly of me. Yeah, if there's a right way, that's just one way, meaning that there's an infinite number of wrong ways. Yeah. A right way automatically implies a wrong way, but that's all bullshit. There's no right way. It's just experience happening and uh yeah, we're just in this play of sorts and it is cool like being able to participate as a separate being and you know have my own personality or embody the way that I embody duality, right? And being able to recognize that other manifestations of this are different and they might think about me in a certain way because I'm different than them, but like I can recognize that they're me underneath. And so I don't have to constantly be what I think empathetic is or loving is. Um, I can just play my part a little bit more lightheartedly. And I think that's the only goal is just to have a little bit more ease, a little bit more humor. And that has really transformed my life. Like once I've been able to like laugh at myself a little bit more, I can meet challenges that I never thought I could before, right? Like if you can laugh at yourself, if you can, recognize that the way you think you should be or the way you think your life should go isn't reality. Like you can just constantly be surprised and, enjoy the ride. So, yeah, there is kind of a beauty and expectation in that, like, we continue to do it and it never is what it is, but like it allows us to be surprised. I don't know. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoy the ride because you are the ride. Regardless of what's happening around you, you your perspective greatly influences the experience that you are because take something like just a typical work day, right? I have plenty of coworkers that you would think that they're one bad meeting away from hopping out the window, right? And I'm there and I'm like cracking jokes and I'm being a little inappropriate in the office, with these jokes, and I am like skirting the line of getting sent to the HR office, because I'm like it's all in good fun. Like I'm not saying anything like too inappropriate, but sometimes it's like a joke about drugs, or it's a joke about drinking on the job, and I'm like, or joking about how when I first started drinking coffee, people asked me if I did coke because I'd be so hyped up, and I'm like, because I tend to have high energy without coffee, and then when I drink coffee, I'm like zipping and zooming all over the place. They're like, "Are you on cocaine?" It's like, no, but if I was, it'd be the best. And then and but it's the same environment, right? We're in the same office with me and my coworkers. We're doing typically the same things, and yet some of us are having a good time and some of us are not. And why is that? And it's because your perspective. You think that your job means something about you. Somebody in our audience, or in the audience, had said during one of the lives with Andrew and Ray, and they're like, I'm really nervous about a presentation, and I don't know why. And I responded, it might be because you think that making a good presentation means something about you. And that's what it might be. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I'm making a best guess, but what I think it could be is that you're putting pressure on yourself to make a good presentation because you think that making a good presentation at work means that you're a better employee, and that means that you're a better person. You think it means something, and it doesn't. You could have the most horrendous work presentation, and you could blow up the projector by the end of the meeting, right? And then you could make a great sale, and you could send the company over their sales goal, right? A horrible presentation means nothing about you as an employee, and it means nothing about you as a person. But we put so much pressure on ourselves when we're thinking about the tasks that we have presented to us, or the task that we're responsible for, and you think that not doing well, not getting a round of applause every time you do something means that you're horrible. And it doesn't, because there are people that get the round of applause and they're assholes. They're not considerate. They're not people that I would want to spend my time with, and they've got a bookcase full of awards. So getting a round of applause, getting all the good job stickers in the adult world doesn't make you a better person, in the same way that doing horribly at a work presentation also means nothing about you. And some feedback that I had gotten from a lot of my bosses is they love how I take feedback. They love that I don't take it personally. And I said, of course not, because when you're telling me that I'm not meeting my full potential at work, that means nothing about me as a person. If I'm a chef and I burn all the eggs that we have in the refrigerator, and we have no more eggs for that day, that still means nothing about me as a person. And I burnt every omelet I tried to make, right? And that means nothing about me as a person. So when I got feedback from my head chef in this example that, if I could add butter to the goddamn pan before we make the omelet, maybe they wouldn't burn. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's a good point. Butter would work. I'll use butter next time. And I don't leave that feedback meeting that like, oh, I didn't use butter. I'm the worst chef ever. I'm a horrible person. I'm never gonna find a friend, because it bleeds out so quickly. You go from being a bad chef who can't make an omelet to a bad person who will never have a friend, who will never have a partner, who will die alone, and a house that nobody looks to knock on the door. right? You take that bad day at work and it bleeds into how you see your whole life unfolding from that. You're like, how powerful is that omelet? Like, how does burning the omelet turn into a life of solitary, of misery and isolation? But we do that all the time because we think that the goddamn omelet means something about us, and it doesn't. It never does. So presentation good or not, omelet burnt or not, means nothing about you as an individual. It means nothing about your potential, and it also means nothing about, what has happened, what is happening, what is gonna happen. Like, things are just happening, and you can make an opinion about it, you can make a judgment about it, but you don't have to. You can just take it as other ingredients in the soup of your life. And if you don't like the flavor, don't worry, we can tweak the flavor. We can add a little more cilantro, a little more parsley. Like, there's always, you can always change, you can always add. It's not about eliminating, which reminds me about something I learned about brain. So I've had a couple of I fainted and I fractured my skull, and so we had a traumatic brain injury. And what I learned about brain recovery is that you never can get rid of the damaged brain cells and the damage to the brain, but you can always lay down new wiring. And I feel the same way about life. I can't delete. There is no undo button. I can't delete my fuck ups. And instead of calling them fuck ups, it could just be moments where I panicked. I panicked because I thought I had to make the best choice, the right choice, the only choice. And I panicked. And in my panic, I made a choice that like blew up immediately. So, and instead of being upset that I panicked, I can just be like, I don't have to make a perfect choice. I am okay. I'm still here. I can do something with that. And it's okay. And I don't have to undo, I don't have to redo anything, and I don't have to delete any experience I've had before, but I can learn why I panicked in that situation. And when I find myself in a similar situation, we can move from experience instead of moving from a place of panic. And I don't have to get rid of bad wiring. I can just lay down new wiring.
I think it's fucked because the way we approach learning something new is so contradictory to how the process of learning actually works, right? Like, trial and error is how we learn. Like, everybody who's good at something has made more mistakes than everybody else who has tried that, right? Like, and maybe it's because we all went through the school system where you had to be perfect on every assignment, or like any sort of fuck up would reflect in your final grade. Like, it doesn't go away, right? But in terms of our lives, each moment is gone once we move through it, right? Like, we're already experiencing something else. So if we're choosing to hold on to our past mistakes, that's our choice. And it's taking energy away from the present. And that's how we stagnate, right? Like, we make a mistake. This is me. This is me, by the way. Like, I make a mistake or I do something that I don't think is good enough. And then I'm like judging myself and I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. Like, I don't feel the best about that. And then I just keep thinking about it. And, sometimes it takes me longer than I know it could to just move on to the next thing. But that's always available to us. We like you said, it doesn't mean anything about you. Like, any of your mistakes don't mean anything about you, because that's then and you are now. Like, you are the moment, right? You're not the idea. And the process of learning is like this. So you can't actually get good at something if you don't allow yourself to fail at it, because then you just won't try. And that's still something I'm actively working through as we speak. And when you care about something, it's tough because, like, I don't know, like, I care about dualistic unity. I this means a lot to me. It's something I'm very passionate about. So there is a little bit of pressure to like provide value to other people. But at the same time, I can recognize that I could never know what that impact is, what that outcome is going to be. And like, I can hope that it's positive, but even my idea of what a positive impact would be is only my perspective of what a positive impact would be. And I just never fucking know. So that thought process is just getting in the way. It's just habitual. And so that's why I continue to show up here and just talk, even though there are some episodes where I'm like, wow, I did not make any sense. Like I was super anxious. Yeah. It's like oh, that's sweet. Thank you, Ray. um, you're right. Great reminder. Um, it's not about me being anything else. It's just me being reality. And however that unfolds, I guess there's always something to be learned. There's always something more context to be gained. So that's why I continue to show up here and just prove to myself over and over again that like my judgments of myself aren't true, and that just because I think I'm not providing any value doesn't mean that I'm actually not.
Mhm. Absolutely. I love Ray and Andrew both said you are the value, Jackie, and I was thinking that, and I was on mute, and I was like, you do, like you are the value, absolutely, and and I agree that you'll never know the impact, but that only comes from wanting to measure impact, right? Because you think you have to measure impact because you have to contribute an established value. You have to make some kind of respectable contribution percentage. Like I give 20% value at it, and it's like why do you need to put a number? Why do you need to measure it? You don't need to measure anything. You are the value, your experience is valuable, and it's also taking the pressure off of you in a way, because it's like I could say the same insight to 10 people, right? And that doesn't mean that 10 people will feel like that's an insight. So the value that they find, they create, takes the pressure off of me. When someone says like, oh, they really resonated, that was well said, it's not that the words you pick just happen to be the perfect combination of words. It's that the combination of words that you did pick resonated because someone added the value of their experience to those words. So really, it's why I couldn't. Well, I guess the thought that's about to come next is why I have considered becoming a life coach but never did, because I felt like despite the fact that people could learn from me, I was never going to be a teacher because I could never guarantee that they would learn something. I could never guarantee that they would learn a particular thing, which is what I always thought teachers were. Teachers are expected to teach you X, and you're going to learn X, and then you could apply X. That's not a guarantee. So it feels like, in my opinion, there's no such thing as a teacher, but there are students everywhere, and the students find the lessons in other students. They don't find lessons in teachers. So I really don't think that teachers actually exist in the way that I'm thinking about it. If that's your career, I'm not saying that your job is made up, even though they're all made up. But what I'm saying is just that I don't feel like I ever could be a teacher, because although people could learn from me, they're only learning what they see. They're creating the lesson in the words that I speak, in the insights that I share. They create the value themselves, because I don't know what's valuable to anyone else. Not really. So how could I create what's valuable to you when I don't even know what that is, when even you are learning what that means to you? So it feels like you can learn from other people. There are lessons in everyone, but you're the best teacher you're ever going to get. So that, for me, that helped me take off the pressure of having to create value for other people. I don't, and I couldn't. I can only create value for myself because I know what resonates with me, and everyone else is going to figure out, hopefully, they'll realize what resonates with them, and they create the value in the words that we speak. So I don't think that we have to put so much pressure on ourselves. It's just show up because you want to, and that's enough. Like, show up because you're curious, show up because you had an insight, show up because you're processing and dealing with something, and you can share that genuine experience, and people will find value in it as they relate to it. but you don't have to do anything other than be you. And that is enough. And I love you exactly as you are, Jackie. Thank you so much for sharing yourself, your experience, and all that you are with us, because it means more than I could ever put into words, because words could never encompass everything that you are. And they don't need to. I'm relishing in the experience of Jackie, which is so much more than I could ever describe or thank you for. I will never have the words, but it's not about the words, it's where they're coming from. I hope that you can feel how much I love you, how much we all love you, and how much you add, because you add so much more. Every single time you show up, that's adding. Thank you.
I want to fucking cry. I love you, Amanda. And yeah, likewise. Like, I could never put into words the impact that you've had on me, but I feel it. It's profound. Everybody else feels it. It's crazy. Like, the fact that we, who are the center of our like being, whatever, can't see ourselves. Like, we can't.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
And at the same time, we're the only ones who can see ourselves, like our internal subjectivity. And
Yeah.
that's why, like you said, like, you can't guarantee that anybody else is getting value, but you can't guarantee you're having an impact. Like, you can't plug your brain into somebody else's brain and have them like see and experience and learn things the same way you did. And yeah, so you can just have this sense of humility, like upon recognizing that, oh yeah, I'm never what I think. I don't know what's happening.
No.
You still have to go to your job. You still have to interact
Eat,
with your friends and family. You have to eat.
shower.
Like, you're still in this dualistic experience.
Yeah.
And so the best you can do, I think, is just live for yourself and sort of have this understanding that, I don't know. And you can have a sense of humor about it. And that's where the weight falls off. Because, like, in this example, we're talking about being a teacher. Like, if you're a teacher and you're putting so much pressure on yourself to have a specific impact on your students, like, recognizing that you can't allows you to be a little bit more lighthearted, a little more relaxed, a little more open, a little more yourself. And oddly enough, that seems to be the most impactful state of all, right? Because nobody, I don't, it's especially with children, like, they are not as tense as adults, right? Because they just haven't had as much conditioning, contradictory fucking conditioning. So I think that would actually really help somebody who was a teacher, right? To just recognize that, oh yeah, I don't know if I'm actually having impact. So let me just go do my job. Let me have fun with it. And of course, you're seeing those children as yourself. Like, even though they're in a smaller, younger body, like, that's the same kind of consciousness as you. Like, that's, and you can interact with them in a very empathetic and relaxed way, also because you're not expecting them to perform to meet your expectation. You're not expecting them to be super well behaved and like rigid, like they're fucking adults in an office, right? Like, that's the expectation that some teachers will put on children. And it's like, if that expectation was gone, there would be more connection. There's that opportunity for connection, for like, and you can't even say what that impact is, but you can feel it, I think, when you really have that moment of connection with somebody where you're not expecting anything out of them and they're not expecting anything out of you. And I think that's why dualistic unity feels so like, I can't even say. Like, I can't even say. It just feels like peace. Like, it feels like family. And it feels like, well, because you're me. You're me. So
It feels like a warm hug and a swift kick in the ass all at the same time.
exactly.
You know, like, I feel supported and yet I feel called out. It's a combination of both. But yeah, no, it's not meant to be one thing, because it's just it's just experience, and experience is not one thing. It's not described in one way, but I definitely, I agree with you, and I resonate so much with with your perspective as it's changing, with your insights as they're hitting, with what you're learning as you share it. You know, because it's not supposed to just be one and done, flipping a switch, or you know, it's an ongoing process. And I'm really glad that we get to share that, and then we get to go on our adventures and then come back and tell, you know, tell me of your recent voyages, young warrior. Tell me, you know. I was like, it's so much fun. But I do think that it's it's indescribable. It's so much, and yet it feels so overwhelming sometimes, and then it feels like I can forget about it, and I get super zoomed into my character or into my perspective, and then I forget that everything else is happening around me, that everything else is still there. So it's fun. I feel like I'm just like hopping, like I'm just moving my attention from being zoomed in or zoomed out or something in between. Um, but I think that's fantastic. And I do think that this is a good place for us to wrap up our live. And before we go, I just want to remind everyone about being able to win a free ticket to our California retreat. There's still time to make a video on a social media platform, and then the video with the most likes is going to be the winner to get that free ticket for the California retreat in April. I'll put that up right now, the QR code. So the videos that have been entered have been incredible. Excited to see more of them. And Jackie and I will be there. So, you know, if you want to hang out with us in person and go on some walks and have your mind blown and then pick up the pieces together to blow it up again, come on down. Let's find out what's behind that door with a question mark on it and open it up and just dance into uncertainty together. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing what you've been going through. And a lot of us, myself, and so many people in the audio, in the comments, they really they feel exactly the way that you do. And it's more shared than we think, because it's so easy to think, oh, I'm the only one. I'm the only person that's struggling, or I'm the only one that's messing up. And there are more people than you think that feel exactly that same way.
Yep. It's never just me, ever. And these conversations are always a really, really great reminder. Thank you, Amanda, for just being yourself, for you know, saying the things that you say and doing the things you do for your own reasons. And yeah, 4 tickets left for Virginia Beach as well. So if you can make it, that'll be a great retreat. And yeah, I'll be at California. I'm going to be teaching some yoga. So if you want to take one of my classes in person, we can go on walks, we can shoot the shit, you know, do some karaoke. It's going to be super exciting. So make sure you go ahead and do those videos. That's a crazy prize, like a whole retreat ticket. And if you've been to one of these retreats, you know how in at least in my experience, life-changing, like so much deeper and more profound than I ever could have thought. And like, I already knew it would be deep and profound. So, definitely worth the shot. Just, you know, put yourself out there, lean into that uncertainty a little bit. And yeah, don't forget about our workshop the end of the month, the 19th and 20th. I believe you can sign up already or purchase it maybe the end of the day today.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has been a great conversation. It's so nice to be back.
Ow, ow!
And yeah, we'll see you next Friday, same time.
4 p.m. Eastern. Bye, everyone.